In this video, we're going to take a look at both relative and absolute cell references. What we're going to do is we're going to construct a table where we compute compound interest. So everything in the table is going to depend on these two numbers up here. And as you can see, these numbers are not going to be moving, so that's kind of a hint that these are going to be absolute cell references when we refer to them. So what I want to do is for 25 years, let me just make this just a little bit smaller so it all fits on the screen. For 25 years, I want to figure out what the beginning balance is. I want to add on some interest, which is going to be based on this interest rate and the beginning balance. And then I want to add the beginning balance and the interest together to come up with the ending balance. When I go to year 2, the ending balance for year 1 is going to be the beginning balance for year number 2. Okay? So, when you do this, usually you have to do the first row and then at least some of the second row with formulas. And the reason is because row 2 depends on row 1. Row 3 depends on row 2. Row 4 depends on row 3, and so on all the way down. So, but row 1 doesn't have a previous year to depend on. It gets its stuff from up here. So what you want to copy is you want to copy the stuff like from row 2 that depends on the previous row, because that's what's going to be all the way down the page, all the way down to year number 25. So just keep that in mind. Row 1 is almost always going to be different. So my beginning balance, I don't want to put the number 10,000 there because I want to be able to change this and have my spreadsheet update automatically. So instead, I put B1. And now it doesn't matter what I put up here. If I put 20,000 up there, then it automatically gets updated down here. So that's nice. The only two things I should ever have to change in this spreadsheet are these two cells right here. And when I change either one of those, it should automatically change all of these numbers down here. I'm going to go back to 10,000 because 1 is easier to multiply than 2. So I want to be able to check this in my head as I do it. So then I want to find out how much interest I earned that first year. Well, the interest is going to be whatever my beginning balance was, which is B5, multiplied by my interest rate. And that is in B2. And if I think about what it's going to look like on the next row, it's still going to be B2, but on the next row, I'll be multiplying by B6. So the B5 is going to be a relative cell reference, so I can just leave it the way it is. The B2, however, is never going to change. So I'm going to make that absolute. I just did F4 to put the dollar signs in. And then my ending balance is going to be whatever I started with, which is B5, plus whatever interest I earned, which is C5, and hit enter. Now, on this formula right here, when I go down to the next row, I want the beginning balance from year 2. I want the interest from year 2. When I go down to the next row after that, I want the beginning balance from year 3, the interest from year 3. So these are going to be relative cell references. I do not need dollar signs. Okay. Now, actually, this formula can be copied all the way down. This formula can also be copied all the way down, but this one cannot. I'm going to show you what happens if I try to copy that all the way down. And because it's a relative cell reference, first it copies the 10,000, which is fine, but then this one refers to the row below that, and this refers to the row below that, and this refers to the row below that. And then I start referring to, B5 and B6, and so it just kind of keeps repeating over and over again. So if you ever see something like this, there's probably about a 99% chance that what you did was you copied a formula that was clearly incorrect, and sometimes it has to do with the fact that you used absolute instead of relative cell references or vice versa. In this case, it just means that this is not the first year. This one depends on the previous year. It does not depend on a number up above. So my ending or beginning balance for year number 2 is going to be whatever my ending balance was for year number 1. So I should get 11,000 there as well. Okay. Now you see I got the little green tab again. If I click on the cell, the little yellow exclamation mark pops up, and it says I have an inconsistent formula. Okay. So it's looking for a formula just like this one up here. But if I copy that one down, you saw what happened a minute ago. It gets all messed up. So this is a case where Excel is wrong, and I'm going to tell it to ignore the error. Okay. Now, this formula can be copied all the way down. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, because I haven't filled in these formulas over here, I'm always going to get 0 for the ending balance from the previous year because there's nothing in those cells. These two formulas both need to be copied down. I do not need to repeat them again on row 2, and I can copy both of them at the same time. So select both of them with your fill handle and then copy all the way down. And what I end up with here is $108,347.06. Okay, and if I double click on that, it tells me it's adding the two previous numbers. If I hit escape, double click on another one, it's adding the two previous numbers. If I go here and pick any one of my interest values and double click, it's getting the number, the dollar value from over here, but it's getting the interest rate up here from B2. If I double click down here, same thing. It's getting the number to be multiplied by from over here, but it's always multiplying by the interest rate up here in B2. Okay, so, and now the neat thing about this is I can change this to 20,000. It automatically updates. I can change my interest rate from 10% to 9%. It automatically updates. So I did not put a single number into my formulas down here. Everything was a cell reference, and that's the way you want to do it. So if you ever decide you want to change, this or this, if I built those numbers into my formulas down here, I'd have to go redo all those formulas, and you don't want to do that. Spreadsheets are supposed to make your life easier. One other thing, actually two other things, but the first one is the formatting. This one copied its formatting from up here. These two did not. Excel saw the $sign here for currency formatting, and it decided it should do the same thing for these over here. But these have two decimal places, these do not. So you can either fix it by increasing the decimal places on these numbers over here, or you can select all of them with numbers that big. I'm not sure pennies matter, so we need to decrease decimal a couple of times. So we're just looking at whole number values. Okay. Now, one more thing. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to mess up this formula. So I'm going to double click on it. And when I'm on B2, I'm going to hit F4 to cycle through my references. And I'm just going to go back and put that in as a relative cell reference, B2, which means that when I copy it down, I'll get B3, B4, B5, and so on. I'm going to hit enter, okay? Now, nothing should have changed when I did that, but if I get my fill handle and try to copy that all the way down, then I get something like that. And I've got the little green tabs in there. They'll tell you probably inconsistent formula again, which is not very, no, it just says error in value. And that's probably because I'm trying to multiply by a cell that has text in it. So you see what's happening is, as I go down the page, that red number, which is supposed to always be my annual interest rate, keeps moving down. And so everything gets pretty well messed up. So I am going to go back here and double click. I'm going to hit F4 to put the $signs back in and make that absolute. Now, I still, why is that wrong? It's wrong because this stuff is being formatted. Let's see. I did B3. I want B2. There we go. Okay, now let's try taking these two formulas. Actually, it should just be this one. This is the only one I messed up. So I think if I go down, copy that all the way down, it should fix all of the other ones, and it does. Okay. So that's another example of using absolute and relative cell references. You never want to build numbers into a formula if you can avoid it. What you need to do is put any numbers that you might want to change at some point, put them up at the top, label them clearly, and then have cell references that refer to these numbers up here rather than actually putting 10,000 or 20,000 or 9% or 10% into your formulas. It makes your life a lot easier.